Hey guys, how you going? VaulSC here. We're going to take a look at a game of infiNity today between the Aleph, vanilla sectorial, non-sectorial Aleph, and the Druze, one of the mercenary sectorials, of course, that came out not too long ago. The mission will be engineering deck, and we'll talk about that as we get through to the first few photos, but as is often requested, I'm just going to go through the army lists to begin with. So here is my vanilla Aleph list, and it's an Achilles list. I do like running Achilles. I think he's quite powerful in the old vanilla setup. This is a list which I've run several times before, but there is one change, and that is that I've swapped out the Diva Lieutenant for the Shukra Consultant. So in this one, you've got Achilles as the Lieutenant instead of the Diva, and instead of spending the 20-odd points on the Diva, you've got the 25 points on the Shukra Boarding Shotgun. This is actually a big deal, and obviously it's become enabled now that the OSS sectorials come out and Aleph's got a whole lot of new toys. I mean, Aleph went for a long time without getting anything new, so they kind of deserved it. But looking at him, 25 points gets you a guy that contributes a regular order, cool, so he's a sort of a semi-cheerleader, but he's providing that chain of command, he's a specialist therefore, and he's providing counterintelligence. So the idea is that if you're taking the first turn of the game, you can basically have a turn where you move out with Achilles if you want to. Your opponent might strip one order from your pool using the command token. It's only one order, not two, because of counterintelligence. But given that Achilles can be the lieutenant, and you don't go into lost lieutenant if he dies because you have chain of command, when you do the math there and account for that, he's got 10 orders backing him up. So if you really do want to commit that alpha strike Achilles, do some damage, you can. And the beauty of that is that you can let Achilles die if you want to. So you spend 10 orders running through to one corner of the deployment zone. You shoot up all sorts of flashball spots and war corps and cheerleaders and maybe even assassinate a lieutenant. And even if he walks past AROs from snipers, he can actually fend pretty well from himself and shoot back at things like TR bots. And if you leave him stranded and wounded in enemy territory, if it costs them, say, 2 or 3 orders to kill him, maybe more, what you've done there is you've gutted their order pool, hopefully. You've caused them to spend more orders than they wanted to, killing him, and then you're not in lost lieutenant, and you still have the rest of your army, so you can still do damage with your Dakini or HMG with the assisted fire backup. You've got a perfectly good Dazu there, which is, you know, it fills that role of the forward observing infiltrating specialist, but he's got TO camos, BS12, NWI, so he can actually fight. Then of course you've got the 2 Krakot renegades as well out in the midfield, able to trade with things quite effectively. Everything else on the list is just backup, you know, extra orders effectively. So that's how you sort of use it. I used to sort of say, okay, with Achilles, don't send him out the first turn, send him out the second turn, because then you've got a game situation where you've softened up the enemy a little bit, and then you've got a full order pool to send him out, and you're not suffering from that -2 from the strategic use of the command token. But things have changed a little bit. We've got a Shukra Consultant now, so that's generally sort of my view of this sort of list now. Let's look at my opponent's Druze list. This is his first time playing Druze. He's running Arslan, the Druze special character. Never been a big fan of him. He's 36 points. This is the multi-rifle guy. So he's got MSV 1, Fatality level 1, Hyperdynamics 1. So he's got all these little abilities spread across his profile. He doesn't specialize in one thing, and that's what you need a model in infiNity to do, is to be really good at one particular role to contribute to your overall game plan. Arslan is just a bit more of a point sink, unfortunately. Peacemaker, pretty cool. I didn't get the chance to really try this guy out properly when I played Druze, but he's a solid choice, especially if you're going first. If you're going second, the mechanized deployment isn't as good because he's a bit more of a sitting duck in the middle of the table and just makes your hackers a bit more vulnerable when the enemy come up nearby to him and use him as a repeater. The Druze Link team, I think they're terrible. They're 4-2 speed. The forward deployment level 1 with the new season hasn't really helped them out very much. They're very expensive for what they do. Don't recommend them at all. But he's trying them out. Got the EM grenade guy and the HMG guy in there, just as you should. The Druze hack is actually kind of useful because the pitcher, right? So BS12 with the pitcher and the link team bonuses, you get the pitcher down. Then as a hacker, she's quite good at sniping any enemy hackers with her killer hacking device. Other than that, though, a few cheerleader bots. Basher Bazook's really cool. A couple of Hunzakuts, though, can't go wrong with them. The main thing that I find is problematic about this list is you haven't got Saito Togan there. Saito Togan is the one thing that this sectorial leads on. You need him for that smoke. You need him for that midfield close combat presence, and he's a specialist as well. So you can't really pass him up, in my opinion. Even with Saito, I think this is the worst sectorial in the game. Just my personal opinion. Okay, well, let's jump into it and take a look at some photos. So here's a view of the battlefield. I am going to be, let me just get out the pen. What color are we going to use today? Let's take, orange, that'll do. So we've got Aleph over this side and Druze on this side here. This is engineering deck, so there are 5 consoles and there's an objective room in the middle. Now, if at the end of the game you have more of the consoles than your opponent, you get the lion's share of the objective points. You can still get a bunch of objective points by controlling the room, by placing the multi-scanner from the Xenotech in the room, classified objective, and so on and so forth, but it's really more about the consoles. This is a much easier mission to win if you have the last turn of the game, provided that you can defend well. So what I mean by that is that, let's just grab like a blue, for example. Let's say the Druze move out, they've got specialists, they move out, they capture this one, they capture this one. Then Aleph move out, they capture this one, they capture this one. During the first 2 turns of the game, that is. So the player that goes first is going to want to set up a position where they've got, the majority of consoles. So maybe this central one is captured by the Aleph army, right? So the Aleph's got those 3, and then there's one final turn where the Druze player can go, right, has the Aleph player, completely, surrounded this room with mines and suppression fire and hacking and block things off? Is the middle objective too hard to get to? Well, if so, they probably haven't defended one of the other ones, so they can just come around the side here with a specialist and get these 3 here and win that way. Or this one around the side, right? So it's a bit easier if you're going second. Having said that, if you lose too many troops, if your specialists get assassinated, obviously you can also win by going first. You just have to be aggressive enough. Let's just start going through the setup. I've won the role for initiative, and I chose table side, even though I knew that second turn is a huge advantage. I wanted to bait my opponent into going second, because I knew if he did that, I'd be able to send Achilles at him with 11 orders, and if Achilles died, I wouldn't be in Lost Lieutenant because of the chain of command. So I wanted to try that. I wanted to see if I could just bully my opponent at just crushing him within 2 turns and winning the scenario that way. But he decided to go with the first turn, so maybe even easier, given that I get to set up second and I have second turn for winning the scenario. Anyway, this Fat Yuan one here is actually the wrong size base model, but it's going to be an HVT. We've got a flashball spot over here. The Druze Link team, unfortunately unpainted, and maybe a couple of proxies in there. We've got the Killer Hacker right here, the Druze HMG right there. This is a Brawler MSV2. We've got the Grenade Launcher Druze there, and there's Arslan himself. I just want to point out that my opponent is starting with these 2 models right next to the objective. They can be seen from my deployment zone. I can just put a post-human sniper there covering them. So I don't really like this deployment setup. He sort of feels that, okay, he's willing to sort of engage me on that and then shoot at me with his MSV2 and the Link team. But I just don't really think it's worth it. Other than that, though, we've got Valeria Gromos, or whatever her name is, up on top of the building. This guy out here is a Xenotech. There's a couple of Hunzakuts out in the middle of the field, although we'll get clearer photos of them shortly. And then back here, more bots. So let's just keep going. Here's a closer look at where the Druze are. So once again, Killer Hacker out there, HMG out here, MSV2 Sniper Brawler, Grenade Druze. We've got Arslan there, Valeria the Hacker at the back. Further to the left of his, so this is the left-hand side area. We've got the Kamail Minesweeper. We've got a sensor bot there. We've got a Walker up here. Another flash pulse spot there. Hunzakut nearby to the objective room. Xenotech up there. So you can see that the sensor bots are planning on going out that way to pick up that console. Closer look at where his Hunzakuts are and the Xenotech. I am taking a photo of my hidden deployment model, and even though my opponent is sort of expecting this, I just I just can't bring myself to do anything other than punish him for this. The posthumous sniper is going to get a line of sight down there to where the console is. There's a Druze HMG in line of sight of him. What he has to do, basically, is he has to activate the link team first with the Druze HMG as the link leader. Otherwise, I get a free shot at the Druze HMG. And if he does activate the HMG, well, he's not pressing any buttons and he's not really getting anywhere, and I don't necessarily have to reveal the sniper. If somebody from the link team issues a hacking attack and forgets to disband the link team, well, that's going to activate them anyway, and I'll get a free shot. And even if I trade the posthuman for the Druze, that's the only HMG in his army. And if he doesn't have any HMGs, it's going to be really difficult to deal with Achilles at long range, and just pick off a few of the models that I send out for AROs later on. So I really feel like this is the way to go. Dazu in hidden deployment next to the console on my left. Then we'll take a look at the setup. This is a bit of a weird one because the scenario says that you aren't allowed to use the airborne deployment rule to land with the template, like as an actual drop down onto the table. You have to deploy them on the sides of the table, but that also accounts for net rods. My opponent said to me for some reason I'm not allowed to put the net rods in my deployment zone. I can't remember why that was. I'll have to look that up, but I've got them all along the right hand side of the table. They don't scatter off the table, but unfortunately they're going to get shot quite easily over there. Okay, so Krakot Renegade rolling up Total Immunity and Dogged on the Metachemistry table. Dakini HMG just covering this flank here just to help out against the, things that might attack the net rods. Sophitek right next to him just in case the Dakini gets shot. Posthuman Hacker over there. Mark 1, that's a baggage spot right there. We've got I just move my camera over to here. Flashbulb spot over there. There's Shukra Consultant there, but the Shukra Consultant is actually prone behind the wall. Just bear that in mind. On the left-hand area of the table, this Combined Army model is going to be my Xenotech. Another flashbulb spot here, another one over here, which we already talked about. There's going to be a Minesweeper bot over that side. Another Krakot just camming up behind the car there, rolling up +1 armor and bioimmunity. And left-hand side here, you can see my HVT on the left, Minesweeper bot. A closer look at the Xenotech, and that's about it. So my opponent's reserve model is this Pathfinder. You might recognize this color scheme from my own collection. I'm just lending him a Bulleteer and an Orc spot to help out. So he's just deploying a spot where he'll easily be able to kill all three of my net rods right off the bat. So what I decided to do is deploy Achilles. I initially chose this spot and then moved him and took the photo again. The important thing here is that Achilles, you can see his base is just going around the sort of flat area of this wall where he can actually get line of sight over to this part of the battlefield. There's a gap between this piece of terrain and the piece of terrain over here, and the Pathfinder will actually have to move past that before it goes and munches up all of my cheerleaders. The thing here is that the Pathfinder, even if he picks up assisted fire, fires at Achilles, he'll be hitting on 15s. Achilles will be shooting back on a 15 as well. So it just gets a bit risky for the Pathfinder. Actually, sorry, that's not even the case. The Pathfinder's hitting on a 9 because of ODD on 4 dice. Achilles will be hitting on a 15. So it's quite plausible that Achilles could just shut down that push. And if the Pathfinder does get some hits through, well, he's armor 4 and he's got cover, he's got 3 wounds, so Achilles actually does really well as an ARO piece, so long as he's not directly facing the enemy deployment zone and getting shot at by the MSV2 sniper behind smoke, for example. As long as that's not the case, he's actually pretty good at covering your back line. So the game begins. I spend a command token to remove 2 orders from the main group, which does feature the Peacemaker. This game is happening at sunset time, so there's a lot of light shining onto our table, but you can see him moving in through here. There is a post-human hacker on the other side of this building near to where the Krakot is, so he can't move too close to the wall, but does move into position to fire a flamethrower at my net rods and shoot at them with the Spitfire at the same time. After some miraculous dice rolling, I only lose 1 net rod and the other 2 actually pass armor saves, so that's going to delay him a little bit. You can see here he's putting Valyria in action to put up a assist fire level 2 onto the Peacemaker via the repeater on the Peacemaker. So that's when he does decide to go for it and actually attack Achilles here. So there is a shootout between Achilles, who's up in the top right position here, and there's a shootout between him and the Peacemaker, right? So the Peacemaker comes around. It's 4 dice on, I think, 9s, because it's 12 plus 3 to hit, ignoring cover, minus 6 for ODD, so 9. We realize that he's actually out of range, so it turns out to be 3s to hit. Achilles then needs what? Bliss skill 15, minus 3 for range, minus 3 for cover. So it's like 1 dice on a 9 versus 4 dice on 3s. The Peacemaker gets lucky and pulls in a couple of hits anyway, but Achilles shrugs them off with good armor saves. So it's sort of lucky for Achilles there, but also lucky for the Peacemaker that the Peacemaker didn't die. Then the Peacemaker goes for an even ballsier play, and that is to move across the gap and leaving cover. So Achilles is hitting on a what? 18 once the range is factored in, and the Peacemaker hitting on 15s. Again, luckily the Peacemaker wins and actually gets a wound on Achilles this time, and then makes it to the safety of cover without coming into range of the hacker, mind you. So a little bit unlucky for the Peacemaker, but also very lucky for the Peacemaker at the same time. Then we get a scenario where the Flamer can move through. And this is going to get him into a position where he can go after the bot here, the net rod, but also fire the Peacemaker at the Dakini. So there's a shootout where the Dakini can shoot back with just an HMG, Peacemaker firing with assisted fire, Spitfire, and this is good enough to destroy the Dakini, but not remove him from play, of course. There's a Sophitek nearby to revive him. The Flamer able to destroy the net rod, and unfortunately the hacker not able to successfully hack the Orc spot here, sadly. So that means that the Orc spot continues around here, is able to fire its flamethrower at not only the Krakot, but the Posthuman as well. And Posthuman has to dodge rather than doing a hacking attempt. Luckily, this puts Achilles in line of fire to shoot back at the Orc spot, and there's a flashball bot as well. So if I just move my camera slightly here, there's a flashball spot here able to fire a defensive flash pulse there. Achilles is further up in this building, so he's able to draw a line down onto the bot as well. And what happens is the Krakot gets lucky and dodges, the Posthuman gets lucky and dodges, but unluckily the flash pulse misses and Achilles misses as well, so no damage on the Orc spot, so he can simply do it again. Fortunately for me though, he's really low on orders and needs to get a couple of other things done, so activates the Druze with the Killer Hacker as the link leader and goes for pressing the button and moves the Druze HMG to a different spot as he does so. At this point we can then reveal the Posthuman sniper who has that angle, right? So as soon as my opponent realizes that, he decides to go for a dodge with the whole link team to try and save the Druze's life. Doesn't work, the Druze is nailed, so he's taken out. After reforming the link a little bit there, he has an opportunity to then snipe me with an MSV2 sniper. So what happens here is he incorporates a new model into the link that he previously didn't have in the link and brings it back to a 5-man. And the sniper is able to go after the Posthuman and does get a hit through, but Posthuman, being in cover, armor 3, manages to tank one of the armor saves and only fails the other one, which means he ducks back into cover after failing the guts voluntarily and is alive. Bear in mind, this is a situation where the Posthuman has 1 shot back on a 13 and the Brawler has 3 shots on 15s, I think it is, because of MSV2. But I was lucky that he only got 1 hit through, therefore only 2 armor saves. So a good day to be a Posthuman. You get a kill, you duck back into cover. NWI means that he's still alive. Absolutely bonkers profile. The MSV2, the Posthuman proxy sniper, just one of the crazier ones. So we've got the link team moving around, getting into better positions now, running away a little bit, but he doesn't even have any doctor, so we can't really bring back his HMG, sadly. And elsewhere, we've got the Hunzakut moving out on the right-hand flank, just wants to deter Achilles a little bit, so placing a mine. Not that that's really going to stop Achilles, but he also does move up with a Warcore, and there's a flashball spot moving up near to where that mine was as well, which I didn't really picture. Also to provide a repeater to help hack Achilles as it comes through. So that brings it to the first Aleph turn. Now, Achilles begins at the top of the staircase here. He walks down here as he does so. My opponent still has a live orc spot there, and he didn't spend any more orders trying to flamethrower my back line. So Achilles can now eliminate that from long range. He can't respond with a flamethrower, of course, against Achilles, so that will free up my models. Achilles shoots a Spitfire long range, does destroy the orc spot, leaving the Peacemaker there, but I've got a Krakot nearby that could deal with it. So Achilles moving down now. Note that there's a Xenotech attached to Achilles who can move out with him since he's effectively G-synced. So moving on. What Achilles wants to do is he wants to set up shop in this little wall here, moving the Xenotech later on into this room where he can place the multi-scanner. This is going to allow him to just casually get line of sight through the doorway through here to the Warcore, and also over here to a flashball spot. This is a little bit risky because if my opponents get really lucky and hit Achilles with a flash pulse and just shut him down, well, that's his run done for the turn. But let's face it, Achilles, Ballistical 15, should beat them in the face-to-face rolls. He's got ODD, he's got BTS 6. It's not very likely he'd be blinded. And indeed, after the move out, Achilles does eliminate the flashball spot and forces the Warcore back into cover after it failed passed an armor save, but failed a guts check, is what I'm trying to get my mouth around there. After that's done, he's then going to be able to move through at a preferable range band to take out this MSV2 sniper brawler over here that was dealing with the posthuman sniper. And once that's done, that'll allow me to bring the posthuman back up from cover and have a really good day with AROs. So Achilles doing exactly that, moving where he needs to get to, firing at the brawler sniper. It's actually fairly even odds because this turns out to be just over 16, so brawler needing 15s on 2 dice, but Achilles needing 15s on 4 dice. Achilles winning the day there and destroying the brawler. He still had a couple of wounds left, so there was a decent chance of him winning that one. But it's about risk versus reward. My opponent is in a pretty bad way, having lost his only HMG. Going to lose his Peacemaker. He's going to have very few attacking options. He won't have the final turn of the game, so I'm willing to sacrifice Achilles here. Doesn't matter if he dies, because I've got other models which can go out and do work, including the Krakots and the Dazju and so on. But Achilles wins that one. He's taken a wound, as you can see, so now just conservatively pulling him back behind this car, going prone next to this Krakot. And he's going to be very hard to remove because my opponent's got nothing that could really go over there and effectively deal with him. And then in the following 2 turns, he's got a, if he's got a forward position that he can utilize to go over and just really smash the enemy line. Because I've been conservative with Achilles, I've got orders left in the turn, so the soft deck goes over to revive the Dakini, even though it takes 2 extra command tokens for the rerolls after a couple of failures, but the Dakini is back on his feet. And then a Krakot moving out here to sacrifice the Peacemaker. Peacemaker does fire back at him with the Spitfire, but Krakot just unloads both chest mines to force 2 armor saves, and it's a trade, they're both down, but a favorable trade to me. And then, of course, the proxy standing back up again. Just covering this, there's a long line throughout the table very effectively, and there is a console over there that my opponent really does need to take before the game finishes, but it's going to be very hard for him to do that now that he's got nothing to really contest this post-human. He's got no Doctor, he's got no HMG, he's got no multi-spectral visor sniper rifle on his link team, so not really going to be happening. Does move into the objective turn in his turn 2 he does move into his objective room in turn 2 with the other Hunskut, setting up a bit of a mine. We do have a attempt with the Druze in the link team, firing a long-range speculative EM grenade to try and nail Achilles with the EM, which would be very effective against Achilles, I might add, but it's long-range. Achilles is pretty good at dodging, and nothing really happens here. So you can see the Druze there, plapping away with his EM grenade launcher, as he's wont to do. So we see a Hunskut sitting up in the corner of the objective room, now placing a repeater. This is going to allow them to hack Achilles if Achilles comes towards the objective room, you see. Also moving through here with his little Warcore as well. And Valeria Gurumos moving further forward, moving the position of the Druze Xenotech as well. Another mine being placed nearby, so the Hunskut had previously moved in, added a mine to this right-hand side of the table, coming back this way, placing down another mine here, just to cover off the entrance to this room if the Krakot or Achilles moves around that way. But yeah, it's not going to be easy to stop Achilles, that's for sure. doing a bit of movement, realizing that, of course, the Druze Link team can't go around this way, this side of the table to go to the objective because there's a post-human sniper, opting to now reform and move around this direction to hopefully get into a better spot to do some attacks. So Arslan getting into position here. He is prone. He's just going to be hanging out there. And then there is a Bashibazook showing up on the left-hand side of the table and a group of Hollow Echoes. It could be annoying for me to try and deal with them just because I'll have to work out which one the real one is, but with any decent rate of fire gun, it's not going to be that difficult once you start piling the shots into them. There is another attempt to fire a speculative EM grenade over here at my Shukra consultant, but that doesn't quite work. He was thinking about doing that just in the hopes of also nailing Achilles later on with an isolation and putting me into Lost Lieutenant, but not really happening. So, my turn. This is turn 2 for the Aleph, and we're moving out with a Krakot. This is with the Impetuous move. Starts here, vaults over the car. He's going impetuously around the corner because there's a Hunzakut right here, which is quite close. As he does so, there's a firefight with another Hunzakut over here behind the little wall. With a bit of a shootout, I finally get a little bit lucky with my shooting, and there's a critical hit with a submachine gun, so that's one Hunzakut down. Of course, the mine is out of range here, so that's not going to be going off. What can then happen is the Krakot can set up position right next to the wall here, then move around the corner, and when the Hunzakut decides to lob off a shot with his grenade launcher, well, the Krakot can unleash, again, both chest mines. He does this because he picks up 2 free hits onto the Hunzakut and clears out the repeater as well to make way for Achilles. So the Krakot is shot by the boarding shotgun, goes down. Hunzakut also goes down, repeater removed as well. With my post-human hacker on the other side of the table, just moving up with a couple of orders spare in group 2 and securing this other objective on the right-hand side of the table. I'd picked up the one on the left with the Daz user, now holding 2 objectives on my side. And then it's just time for Achilles to move in. He doesn't need to do a whole lot of work, just really needs to set up an annoying position here. He's got 2 wounds left, set up suppression fire maybe through the room, even though it's a saturation zone, and just make it really annoying for my opponent. He's got very few chances to win now that he needs to pick up so many consoles and pick up so much ground and deal with Achilles, but we'll see what happens. So he's setting up just here, also moving the Xenotech into the room to place down a multi-scanner, and then that's it. Because I had a whole lot left to go with orders, the Dakini, which was hanging out on the right-hand flank and got revived from the soft deck, makes a really long run. Dakini's actually very fast at sprinting, by the way, 6'4" speed, and goes from the right-hand side of the table all the way over to the left-hand side of the deployment zone. And this is going to allow him to set up some HMG shots at this Bashibazook, which is just hanging out there. I don't really want the Bashibazook coming after my Dazu, so unleashing with the HMG, just spreading the fire across them all. Obviously, if you fire at holograms enough, you know, a stray bullet will hit, and that's exactly what happens. My opponent choosing not to ARO because he doesn't want to reveal the real one, so the HMG just cutting through them and killing the Bashi. And then setting up a position right here, covering this other line. We know that the Druze Link team is actually in this white Hephaestus building up there, so just another annoying ARO for him to deal with, and with only about 6 orders to go in his turn, it's going to be quite rough. There's a soft deck moving up nearer to where the Krakot is, but this is just basically a backup, just in case he comes through onto my side of the table. We know that there's a post-human hacker next to an objective on this side of the building, so if he does make a commitment to that, the soft deck can just move around as a backup and recapture that console, hopefully. Okay, so a new Druze turn. We're moving out with the Valyria a little bit and the Xenotech, but she can't really make it to the room. The Druze team standing up and moving around here, actually having a go at the Dakini with Arslan, if I'm not mistaken, eventually, and having a snipe at him. But then moving out towards the middle of the center of the room, just moving out with the train. We've got 4 Druze in the team, I believe. We've got Arslan, the EM grenade launcher guy, the killer hacker, and the basic brawler, I think it is, a lieutenant, all moving towards the center of the room. Arslan has a go at cracking some shots into Achilles, but unfortunately doesn't manage to win the face-off against him. Arslan is really in bad shape against a warrior of Achilles' capability, and does end up securing the middle of the room here, just trying to get some points back, but when it's the final left turn, unfortunately, I mean, the game's already lost because he's behind on objectives, so no need to really do anything. But with Achilles moving into the room, Achilles is worth more than Arslan. Doesn't even need to have a go at him, but this becomes a 9-0 victory to the Aleph as soon as Achilles is in there. Arslan can't do more than 1 wound to him. Achilles has got 2 left. And just to add insult to injury, though, Achilles moving into close combat, and of course just lopping off his head, as Achilles likes to do. So, a very one-sided game with a 9-0 to Aleph. I felt like Druze, I mean, they're already a pretty bad faction to begin with. Without taking Saito Dagan, makes it even harder. You need him to be able to throw out the smoke grenades to combine with the MSV2 brawler in the link team. You need the smoke grenades to get onto the objectives. You need him as a button presser. You need his close combat presence. Saito can actually beat Achilles in close combat if you factor in surprise attack coming out of camo state. So you got to bear that in mind as well with this explosive sword. So that's a benefit. Other than that, though, I felt the deployment of the Druze HMG, you know, just asking for a shot from the post-human sniper, and he had to know that there was going to be a post-human sniper around there somewhere. I always run that guy, so I think that was a little bit of a deployment mistake. And the Peacemaker, I felt, you know, was quite handily countered by Achilles, countered, I should say, by Achilles with that counter deployment. It probably would have been better for him to have taken the second turn, given that I gave him the opportunity to do so, and just played very cautiously and used those Hundsguts in the last turn of the game to retake objectives and won that way. So I felt like with his list it was doable, just a bit of an uphill battle and a few poor decisions, I think. Other than that, quite a fun game, and I hope you guys got something out of it. We'll see you again next time.